Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back from your coffee break. Hope you have loads of water and Coke out there. Now, I think today I would like to talk to you about S&OP. Tomorrow, I've seen on the plan someone is going to tell you what's the difference between S&OP and IPB, Integrated Business Planning, so we're not going to go that road today. Two things before we start. In S&OP, Sales and Operations Planning, I personally believe there is an issue. Here is a supply chain summit today, but I'm going to talk about sales. You will think, what is this guy standing here talking about sales? I think there is often the thing, I'm a logistics man too, a logistics professional for 25 years, that we sometimes, in all our areas of logistics, we are supply chain, planning, analysis, we often forget where our salaries and what we produce in our factory comes from. It comes from the sales front. And often there is a problem with the link between operations and sales. We don't talk the same language. We don't speak to each other. We have different bonuses, different agendas. Today, you're all here, you're all relaxed. Most likely, some of you have already made their budgets. But at this same moment where you're sitting here, there are people out there selling your products. And eventually, some of you go back in 2-3 days and will find changed supply chains. Low inventories, high inventories, the wrong product sold. So some of you in a few days will not be so relaxed anymore. And I'm going to talk to you about this, how eventually the next time you're going to come to an event like that, you can be more relaxed. So, quick words about myself in a second. We are going to talk about the problem. We'll have a lot of time today. I have 35 minutes, so we talk 10 minutes about the problem. I will show you a real case study, which we just finished last year, the conclusions to it, and then hopefully we'll still have some time for your questions. One slide only about who we are and what we do. The rest you can find on LinkedIn, Internet, and obviously on our stand. We're a consultancy in Zurich. This is where I come from. I'm a Swiss citizen. I have a funny name. We'll talk about this in a moment. And in Zurich, we are implementing what you already know. Nothing new. We're implementing S&OP. We're implementing IBP, collaborative forecast planning and replenishment, strategies which we all know. Everyone has heard of them. However, strategies which somehow are broke. We are on a Gartner scale of 2 to 4 or 2 to 5, depending on the age, on stage 2 to 3. We are not moving out of it, and we will talk about the why. So, in Zurich, Switzerland, we're consultants, and in Warsaw, we have an excellence center. We offer outsourced services to the pharmaceutical industry, medical devices, the optical industry, fast-moving consumer goods producers, where we have analysts, demand and supply planners, and we do actually physically the service work which in Zurich we consult. A few words about myself. I'm a product, I would say, out of a German lady, Roland. That sounds very Italian, does it? And an Italian man, Casanova. Yeah, and I think I will answer you 3 quick questions about myself. What you want to know? Is this guy a Casanova? No. This is Casanova. It's painted when he was 35 years old. He doesn't look as handsome as me. And there is no link, right, whatsoever. Family route says 100 kilometers north. Second, what you should know about this presentation. I like black and white, and I'm not going to go into the yin and yang. I like to say, sometimes this is a problem with the clients. A service level of 97% is bad. Whatever is below 98% is bad. That doesn't sound good for some companies. That's black and white. Yeah. Sometimes I like, as I said to you, to say S&OP is broken because we have really some problems. Consultants like us, software vendors will solve the problem for you. They will give you 20 pages of blah, blah, sell you another module. SAP IBP is now here. and you think, or you hire more analysts, the problem is sorted. The problem goes deeper. And what you need to know, you realize I'm a talkative person. So after this event, I hope you visit us, or my talk here, you visit us, understand we have more time if it doesn't work out with the question now. So let's go. The topic here today is to talk about emerging markets. Different definitions, what it could be. Some call Poland an emerging market. For some, it's Azerbaijan or Kazakhstan or Colombia. What is important to say, well, I can share of my experience. I see in my function now not so many supply chains anymore, but I think about 2 supply chains a year I'm still having the pleasure to be with on an implementation or on moving a stuck S&OP process further. And whenever I have the pleasure to talk with the management, the regional president or the vice president of the area, everyone will tell me what you can see here, Rolando. Look at that. We need emerging markets. They are great, they're brilliant, they are bearing a lot of growth for us. Saturated markets, our first world markets, they don't sell anymore. And here you have a graph, which is probably, I'm not sure if it can be seen on the very back end there, where you see some obviously very known company and their emerging market share. And obviously the more you go on to food stuff, the more emerging markets become interesting. But you have here another chart, which is coming from Euromonitor, and one is from McKinsey, where it clearly shows, it shows in the United Nations and everywhere, there is a shift of consumer purchasing power, sales, your products are going to go sooner or later, mostly to emerging markets. Now, many people now may think emerging markets, that is China, and that is Russia, and eventually Brazil, and that's it. There's many more out there. And I don't know of any company I've ever met over the last 25 years I'm doing this job who would tell me we have affiliate offices, logistics people, a full structure and setup in every market, because it's simply cost-wise not possible. Yeah? So we focus on the first world, or whatever you can see here on the green. Yeah? So these, we would like to conquer emerging markets, but eventually we are not yet prepared for that. I will not go into these slides, but fact is, when you look at supply chain, the supply chain management, the supply chain strategies we have in place, when you look at the developed market, there is only one problem. How can we be better? How can we be more effective? How can we save costs? How can we have a consumer excellence level that they are happy to buy our products? When you move to emerging markets, the focus is totally different. Mainly, you have a problem. Why are my products not reaching the market? There's nothing about cost effectiveness. You just like it to happen, that it's there, and you're not losing the market, the sales to something else. So the supply chain must cope with this. So that's my favorite part, distributors. We work with distributors, wholesalers, call them agents. Every big or small, medium-sized company has a different name for it. And as we work with them, we need to trust them. We find them, we make a contract with them. We is manufacturing and suppliers. Yeah? We give them the conditions to sell exclusively or not, and they all have, depending on the country, a different meaning for us. Some are more important, some are less. And here we have, I would say, very different qualities. And whenever we roll out as a company, as Internel and S&OP, process into emerging markets, I very often hear, Rolando, we are different. It doesn't work in our markets, S&OP. It may work in your country, in Switzerland or Germany. I haven't seen that it wouldn't work at all. Yeah? So you have different kinds of quality. You have single, exclusive local agents. They are yours. They do not sell to anybody else. You told them in the contract not to do. Oh, I can believe, trust me, that some do. And the manufacturers even know that. But they are accepting it because eventually this company is a market maker. 2 months ago, I spoke with Adidas on another meeting. It was quite an interesting, and this company, which is so big, said, I will not say which country, there's a country in Latin America We have a distributor, he is 60% of the market. We produce specifically for this country. But he wouldn't listen to us. We have nothing to say, says Adidas. And I believe it, because sometimes you are in a market where you have no choice. This is the one and only. However, happens often in the pharma business, this is the biggest wholesaler. You work with him or you're out. Or you have the smaller ones, they're dependent on you. They will do. You need to make S&OP. You need to implement this and that and this marketing strategy. They're going to do it. Then you have the non-exclusive. You have a market like Kazakhstan. We have one client. They have 12 distributors. The country is huge, 18 million people, I believe. So they're competing. They're even selling amongst themselves. Yeah? So in an S&OP attempt of trying to gather data, to gather market intelligence, to plan demand, production, that's deadly, isn't it? Finally, you have different 3 people, 5 people, 500, and eventually your portfolio is not so big anymore. And I think this is the crux when we are talking about IT system for planning an S&OP or IBP. Some 3-man show, 10-man show, they just have no systems at all. So you can come along and say, hey, we have a new module of SAP. It's not going to work to feed in the right data. It's working on your side, but not on the side of the distributor. Now, we are rolling out S&OP, right? In the distributor market, in India. Or I can give an example of one of our clients in Poland. He was just delisted from the biggest pharmaceutical store chain. And now I'm coming, or the client comes and says, hey, we need to make S&OP. It's good for you. You need to become transparent. Oh, God. Yeah? God, no one will listen to me. No one will listen to you, right? Hey, you don't supply me. You're always late in production. I lost the biggest business. You want me to make a plan? Give me something first, right? So, the classical ways of S&OP, they don't really work in emerging markets unless you have your own affiliate office. You have your own office there with your own people that you trust, that you train. They bring along your product strategy and the vision that you have for the market. So that's the wrap-up before we go into the case study. What I can see, or us as a company, or me on the front sometimes, this is what S&OP is. At this moment, I would say, and what we do about, and what I said to you about in the beginning. Let me come from this side, because then I see even my own slide here better. Yeah? We don't have an IT system. You don't trust the distributor. Do you want to have your distributor in your system? You can change him tomorrow. He may cheat on you, or she, yeah? Because, yeah? So you don't really have this trust to integrate. It's a cost thing. Who pays the integration? Finally, there are, I don't know, 180 countries out there, whereas I think 100 and, I'm not sure anymore, 120 are considered developed. Do you have the people for that? Who has the supply chain people to do all this, to integrate all those guys? And that's a funny one. People often say, we need to have the demand plan of distributor or emerging markets. Yeah, what's the demand plan there? You have the commitment of the distributor to buy from you. Is that the demand plan, or is it just a budget? But the demand plan from the distributor is probably based on his sales plan. And very often, we don't go a layer deeper. We do this in our own markets where we have a sales force, where we have 20 people in Germany and knowing every wholesaler or every Carrefour to know what is their sales output. And on that, we base our demand. In emerging markets, we just ask some people to give us some numbers, and then we put it straight into demand planning, production planning, into the S&OP process, in all the reviews, product review, sales review, demand review, and so on and so on. Finally, there's a funny one. Your CEO lacks 5 million euros in the quarter. The CEOs usually say, I mean, I'm not being now bad, I told you, black and white, right? They usually say, we need to follow all the ethical things, and they do. However, when we lack a few million, what's happening? Where we sell a few million more, he will not call the logistics person or the S&OP global head. he will call his sales team and say, guys, sell 5 million more. Anything that is available. I want anything that goes. And where do you sell 5 million more normally, very easily? You sell it in emerging markets, where you have stocks buffer, where it doesn't really, I'm not saying, oh, not that I've seen, everyone does that. But unfortunately, very often, this is what's happening. I mean, if Russia takes a load, it's much better than if you try and sell something in Switzerland with 8 million consumers. The final consequence, which is, I think, the killer for all supply chains, is you have buffer stocks everywhere in the supply chain, on the producer side, in the country's local wholesalers, eventually even in the pharmacies, optic shop, hospitals, wherever you go. And that's what I told you, this is what's done. If we need some extra money somewhere, your CEO will make it happen and will tell to his people, I should wear the same tie, I don't have one actually, find extra sales, yeah? So, now let's talk about the case study, not the bad news. This is a classical one. I'm not going into this client structure. When people call us, it's not that they're bad, they're good. This company's example has a great excellency in S&OP and a very small MAPE, frankly speaking, in developed market. This company has 20,000 orders a day processed out, 24 hours deliveries throughout Europe. However, when it comes to emerging markets, in this case, our project was for EMEA, yeah, so not excluding the Latin, South American countries or Asia. You have here, we don't look about that, they have different, in the territory, different clusters. Every company does it different. They have manufacturing plants. Here is the emerging, the EMEA share of sales. So we have 35% of sales are in Europe, in the European Union, which means this country also, for example, considers Poland or the Czech Republic as an emerging market. Others do not do this anymore. Yeah? And now look at this. This is a project start when we were asked to join in and introduce S&OP for distributors. 52 distributors. Now, is that the good number or not? We see 6,500 more SKUs. And here we have about 100 and nearly 180 deliveries only, which lets us tell us that from the 52, some guy eventually get only 1 delivery a year. Yeah? Some guys may get it weekly. But 1/4 is a rush delivery. Rush delivery means it's a mess. We need to have it immediately. We are stock out. The stores are stock out. The clients are shouting, do everything. Production cannot cope. The production lead time is, in this case, was 6 to 8 weeks. Obey. Obviously, we have a high stock somewhere to cover that. And the measurement in S&OP in this case was MAPE. He was on rank 16 of 16, comparing with the whole of Europe. And it was about, as far as I remember, about 60%. So you as well don't need to have S&OP. Take the budget, divide it by 12. We have seen this in the presentation today. In the middle line, just take the budget, divide by 12, you'll be good. Yeah? And the inventory level, 3 to 6 months. That's the start of the project. I think this one is going to be a fast one. It's about demand planning. How was demand planning done before S&OP was done? It was done in a hotel room, in a conference center. Hey, I need 5 million next year from you. Can you commit? Oh, it's too much. 4.8. Okay. Which product? We'll see this later. Yeah? You'll figure it out. You may laugh. This is happening. Yeah? Because who has time to deal with countries that are just so far away? Yeah? We focus with Germany, UK, Italy, Switzerland. No, it's too small. Yeah? So that's the bargaining approach. This is what happened before. And even worse, I'm working in sales. Now, how many of you in your companies have the sales manager making your demand plan? If you would have to do that, you would be all bankrupt and out of business, right? Because you would produce 5 times more than you ever need. That's what happens. And in this case, the area manager, or the cluster manager, or the business unit head of the cluster, the language cluster, will tell you, I'm selling 5 million in these products. Great. And we take it and put it in the S&OP process together with the developed market, where we go on the bottom. Yeah? So, last thing before product start is summary of it. We have no trust really in the distributor. We don't know them really. They're so far away. Yeah? So we do not plan with them. Let's not share too much data about our strategy because we don't know. The guy may work for the competition. So here is a bias. We have a bullwhip effect. We don't know really. All of a sudden, a huge order comes, 3 container loads of something. God, we need to produce more. Eventually, it was just some gentleman of Saudi Arabia here. It was just a Ramadan promotion, right? And that's it. But we don't know that. Give you one example, very stupid one. Greek and Cyprus. In some industries, you have Cyprus in the month of August doing more sales than the whole of Greece. Why? Because all the British are going to Cyprus. And they're buying millions of them. If you don't understand that because you don't talk to the distributor, what will you plan for? Yeah? So, then that leads obviously to stop and go deliveries. Oh God, you exceeded your credit limit. The order is too big, it has to stop. Yeah? And what does the distributor do? He will have a huge stock. And you too. Yeah? This is a classical thing. In this case, it's a product X when we came. We came in 2014. Now please, anyone able to tell me what would be the likely demand in Q4? Look at these funny numbers. 2,000? 0? Very often this happens. Yeah? So, and this is the success. We have a leaflet here. You can get it on our stand. It's here. If I run out of time, it says how to succeed in emerging markets. What happens normally in the project and what you can do by yourselves. You don't need us. We're just faster. But you can do this in your own organizations. Analyze the distributor markets. Rethink of the clusters. What is important? Do you have SKUs you can share for production? Yeah? Do you have in production 50 small countries which no one bothers? Or you may have 1 or 2 emerging market clusters which have a bigger demand to production. And they're more stable. So if one of the big countries falls out, eventually the other one covers. Reassessing product portfolio means, what do we need to sell? Sales manager will say everything. But your production is going to die about that. So you may wish to really try and persuade them, even as logistics, supply chain people, to do that. Then, and I think this is the major part, this is what we do. The distributor does not just want to fill out some numbers for you. Why? Because it's in the contract you're committed to. No. We need first to understand, I gave you the example of Cyprus and Greece. Why are certain sales patterns, local sales, not demand, why are they like that? And we need to gain the trust of the distributor. You trust me. Yeah, I will give you. It's not that I call them and say, hey, I'm from company X, give me your forecast. But please let me know what you're selling so we can work together what we are buying, S&OP approach. And finally, the goal of all that is to have a great demand plan. Yeah? Do not talk about the forecast for the distributor, the wholesaler in the market. The forecast is worth nothing. It's about what he needs to sell and what he needs to stock. And it's always in a business negotiation, give first. You can make great cash flow analysis for the distributor. He will never run out of cash or of liquidity or stop and go orders and will be happy to work with you. Yeah? Now, as we went one layer down, you may remember the first line was before. Yeah? Now in S&OP with distributors, you go one layer down. You want to know what is the sales. You don't want to just know the demand. You want to know what are they selling locally and why. Why is this peak, for example? Why is this resulting here? And what's the stock? And finally, whether those numbers are good or not, you're able to figure out this mysterious what could be November and December. Very often in distributor S&OP or in S&OP, we do not go down. Yeah? So, the final thing, and this is not happening very often in these moments with S&OP and distributors, you need to really share. Of course, you may not share your own cash flow or your production capacities, but you should share a number. It's a one number principle. Yeah? So you feed back the planning you've done with them to gain their trust. And obviously, hopefully, you will supply on time. So, quick one here, that's the monthly call. S&OP with distributors, the way we do it and the way we recommend it for you, if you do that, is that you have a half-an-hour call with those distributors. Some are never called from your people. They're too distant. They will be grateful for you to call, or for your S&OP manager or supply manager to call. Half an hour with the major stakeholder, business unit head or country manager or affiliate office manager, and one logistics person. You're going to run through like this clock, several processes. These are on a nice, easy, recognizable leaflet. You collect the data, local sales and stocks, not their demand. You make them up, or make a demand plan, analyze them, update the demand plan. It's all preparation for the S&OP call. In the normal S&OP, you have several meetings. Here you have only one with the distributor. You call it in, and this is going to be the discussion where these persons, and we make this experience, we call around 50 distributors every month. They're happy to talk to you. They're happy to share. If I call today Jordan and tomorrow Lebanon, I may have competitive information for the guy in Jordan. He will be very happy to hear neighboring countries, competitive strategy. So it's a give and share. And together, by having the trust to talk with the manufacturer in the call and your person, your supply chain, you're discussing the demand. Finally, you agree on it, and then it goes into the regular supply chain. And then you have a committed demand. The end of the supply chain of this project, as an example, in this case, from 52, were only 42 distributors left. Diverters, not wanting to cooperate, not transparent, not good enough, small enough. Less SKUs, nearly no more rush deliveries, rank 3 of 16 with a 17% on the year MAPE. For distributor market, I would say that is good. Yeah? It's not excellent, but it's good. Yeah? Summarizing this up, distributors want to talk to suppliers and manufacturers. It's a better performing distributor. He likes to be called. He's feeling motivated to do his things. You have a better partnership. You finally know what they do with your brands. Are they diverting or not? Are they going to the market or not? Who is his major client? You have a system, but that's something you can read. You can do your own things. It can be an Excel sheet. Yeah? You share data forwards and backwards. Future sales, according to your level, is that. Do you agree? Yeah, helpful. No helpful. Okay. And you integrate them in a monthly process. And finally, this happens normally after 12 to 18 months. It's a given. You have clear numbers, reduced inventory levels from 6 to 3 months or whatever you like, transmissibility of the supply chain. You know what's happening. You will have no funny rush orders, very few, that you all of a sudden get 3 containers load to send somewhere. And I think, and this is what I'm talking about, the sales here, this will make more sales. You will be less busy with firefighting with distributor market, taking your resources away from developed markets. So, on stand 9, we give you more. To summarize this all, that's the way which is still done, unfortunately, today. I call it the old planning. 60% of the sales are planned and estimated for in this world with S&OP moving to IPB. The rest is guesstimated. And obviously, the dream scenario is that you include the emerging markets until they are ready to move here when they become no more distributors. Thank you. That's that. Any questions in the stand or here? Thanks very much.